How's it going, everybody? Seth here. I've got Tyson with me again. So, hey, man, in the last video, we talked about the controller, right?
Yes.
And how you're able to pull that trigger on the controller and it transfers the signal to the track, and then the track gives the power to the car.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually talk about how the car kind of translates that energy from the front of the car to the back of the car, right?
Yeah.
So, we want to talk about the chassis today, correct?
Yeah, this chassis.
All right, so you want to show it off?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Show off time.
All right, so what's on the very front of that part?
Alright, so we have the guide. Here, and also we have some braids.
Yep.
Which basically transfers the energy to these wires, well, from these clips.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about just the front of the car first, okay?
Alright, yeah.
So the guide on the very front, that's what pivots and lets us be able to go around corners, right, and keep the car straight-ish,
Yes.
right? Now, you mentioned braids,
Yeah.
okay? So that is these things right here on each side, and they're metal, right? Do you want to show them a brand new one, what it looks like?
Alright, so this is a brand new braid.
It's brass.
Oh.
All right, so the brass is a really good conductor, and it holds up pretty well. So then it connects to these things that we call clips, right? And a little clip, they're little bitty, they're right here. They fasten it into your guide on the top side of it, and then you've got some lead wires, all
Yeah.
right? So what do you use to connect your clip to your wire? Remember what it's called?
Soldering tool?
Solder.
Solder.
Yep, solder, and we use a soldering iron. So we'll go into that soldering iron a little bit later in some other video. But what it does is it transfers your power source from the track through the braid, through that clip, through the wire. We run the wires through the chassis so that they don't get bound up, and they kind of act as a centering spring also. And then it loops back around and connects to the...
Motor!
Exactly. And how do you connect it there too?
Same tool as earlier.
Solder, right? So then you got a positive and a negative side to the motor. And whenever you hook it up the right way, your car is going to go forward. And if you hook it up backwards, what's going to happen?
It's going to go backward.
The car is going to go backwards. Exactly. Well, what kind of motors do we run?
Hawk 7s.
Yep, we run a Hawk 7 motor. We can also run like a Pro Slot or an Eagle. Anything that's comparable to this right now is what we can run whenever we go to run with Surge, right?
Yeah.
All right, so your motor and your guide are attached to what part of the chassis?
The middle, I'm pretty sure it's called.
So it's called the center section of the chassis. And it's these two parts up here that come out to the sides. This middle part right down here, the middle, it gets wider, and then it attaches here. It also holds your axle in place, which holds your gear and your tires also. And then we've got this other part that's out here on the outside. Do you remember what that's called?
No.
It's called a pan. And the pan is what you use to attach your body to the chassis here on a flexi. And it moves around back and forth and side to side just a little bit, and that's flexing, right? So that's why these are called flexi chassis. So you use these tubes right here. What we use the tubes, and you use body pins to actually attach your body onto your chassis here. And then it makes one really nice unit like this. So you can see our pins are there and there and there and there. And then I can move this whole thing just a little bit. It allows it to move around a little bit. There's advantages, there's disadvantages. Flexis are just the way they are. They're another type of slot car. You've got some solid wing cars. We don't have any of those right now. You've got some older technology stuff where it uses like brass pans and brass intersections and like piano wire and things like that to be able to make a chassis. It's really interesting because it flexes on itself. So how do you connect your pan to your center section? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's basically like clips, just like, well, not clips, but like pins, basically like the way you put your body on your chassis.
Yep, you got this pin right here, and you got a pin right here. You can pull those things out. You can take them off. You can do any maintenance you need to do. So what's one type of maintenance that you would need to do if you're crashing a lot, maybe?
Flatten the chassis back out?
You're right. So if you do a lot of crashes, sometimes you will have to take the pan off because it's only got a couple sections here. Well, really just one section to kind of hold the two sides together. So that can get tweaked a little bit. Your outside edges out here can get tweaked a little bit. So we've got a granite block that we use, and we put this on that granite block just to make sure everything's really flat. When you touch on the different points, you don't want to hear any clicking. If you have clicking, that means you have a section of your pan or your center section that is actually bent a little bit, and you have to find where that's at and straighten it back out, because you want everything on this to be perfectly smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is there anything else you think that anybody should know about chassis?
Yeah, some chassis can be different weights than others.
So like the center section or the pans?
All of it.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
So you're right. Do we have our... Where's this one? Right? This is the one that you learned how to drive on.
Yes.
Right? This is the very first car that you actually got onto a track. This is a Flexi 2 by Parma, and it's a really, really good one for beginners. Now, it's actually got wheels up in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got rubber O-rings on the wheels.
I never actually noticed that.
Yeah, but it's set up the same way. It's just a lot heavier.
Mhm.
Now, what's an advantage to having a heavier chassis?
You have more control.
It's going to stay in the groove a lot more, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to get into a corner maybe a little bit harder, and it's not going to want to lift out, right? But whenever it does hit, it's got more momentum, so it might damage just a little bit more.
Mhm.
But these tend to be a lot thicker. The old Champions and Flexis and the Parmas and stuff like that,
Mhm.
they tended to be a little bit more heavy duty. And then we've also got our truck chassis here, which is set up a little bit differently. It's got a little bit more surface area here, and we've actually got some wheels that go into the front. They are rubber also. They're not O-rings. They're the foam, same as the rears.
Oh.
And we use a different style pin on this one too. So this one here, we've got these longer body pins, right?
Oh.
Yeah, really interesting. You probably haven't seen these very much because I tried to not use them a lot on our stuff.
Mhm.
But this is really cool. All you got to do is put it into your front groove right there, and then you push it into the back. It snaps in place, and then it's good to go.
Oh, that's actually like better than these.
A little bit. If you got to make a change really quick, these are more difficult. Pulling
Yeah.
just a pin out, two of those pins, and putting them down is a lot easier than trying to line this up and get this thing through.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot more damage happen with these than I have those ever before.
Mm.
But this one, it's not so heavy. It's a little bit lighter, but this is a 4.5-inch chassis instead of a 4-inch. So I can show you a comparison right here. What you're looking at is your guide location to
Mhm.
where the rear wheels are. You see that?
Yeah.
So about right there.
Mhm.
It's called a 4 and a 4.5 is what this is.
Mhm.
So pretty cool. There's also some different manufacturers of these chassis that are even lighter still, but they bend a little bit easier, right? You can get some heavier outside pans. You can get some really light outside pans. Massetti makes a really good set of pans that are all different colors. I don't run them yet because I'm still trying to keep something that is a little bit more durable while I'm still learning how to keep it in the groove, right?
Mhm.
Well, I think that's everything that we know about chassis, right?
Mhm.
So, everybody, thank you very much for stopping in here today. Hope you enjoyed the video, learned something today. If you did, make sure you hit the like button for us, if you would, please. And if you want to stay up to date on all the future videos that we're going to be putting out here, we've got a couple races coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I think we've got one more race coming up, and then we got a little bit more of a break. So if you want to stay up to date on the prep video for that and the recap video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell too. Don't forget that, everybody. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you're racing.
And don't forget, keep it in the groove. Bye.